So we've got Clair Heaviside with us, marketing agency owner, ultra runner, creative, just generally inspirational person, I'd say. But for those who don't know you, Claire, can you just tell us who you are today? So I don't want to go back to the beginning. I want to know where you are today.
Well, I really liked that intro, but I think today I really very much feel like a business owner. And I think that's just because I've come from a series of back-to-back quite intense meetings where I've been very much in the mindset of, how am I representing the business? Where is the business going? What are we doing in terms of leadership? What's happening? So those kind of big questions around the business, that's been my real focus for today. And it's interesting to kind of think, well, who am I today? That's certainly the persona that I'm kind of leaning into. But anyone that knows me, as you very much do, knows that there is always this kind of underlying aspect of, as you said, endurance and running that for me is, even when I'm in my business owner persona, is very much part of the way that I approach life every day. And of course I did go running today as well. So
how far have you done today?
Just a little one today. It's about 13 kilometres.
Is that you do run to work?
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
The run commute turned into a much bigger thing than I ever expected. I live out in the Peak District.
Yeah.
And I started running to work because I said to a friend of mine, I was training for an ultra and I was kind of getting a bit stressed because I couldn't fit you have to do hours of running in the week. And I was getting stressed about not being able to fit my training in. And she said jokingly, why don't you run to work? Now, people should know not to joke with me about things like that, because I was like, that's a great idea. I'm going to do that. And that was about 2.5 years ago. And I've just done it ever since. So on a Monday, I bring all my clothes into the office for the week on the train. And then every other day I run. Now, when I first started doing it, it was quite literally 18 kilometres or 21 kilometres pretty much every day, because that's the distance from my house to the office, conveniently almost bang on a half marathon, which makes a great headline.
Yeah.
But more recently, I've been a bit more sensible with my training and also moved house. So to run the whole way would be 30k, which is just even too much for me. So now, like this morning, I just did a 13-kilometre run, and then I try and beat the train, and I get to a train station, and then I'll jump on the train and get the rest of the way to work, and try and have a bit more of a rounded approach to my training with strength work and everything else as well. But I think people really kind of bought into this story of the run commute because they are fascinated by the idea of getting up and doing something every single day for a long period of time. And that's what I want people to take away from it the most. So it doesn't matter that it's not a half marathon anymore. The key thing is that I do it every day and every week. Yeah. And that's regardless of the weather. That's regardless of what I've got on that day, or how stressed I'm feeling, or if I'm tired, or if I just don't feel like it, or anything. It's about that consistency that's now very much built into my routine, to the point where it would just feel very odd not to do it.
When you started, was it the plan to be consistent with it, or it was training for a run?
No, not at all. It was supposed to be a one-off, but I don't know if it's just my mind or whatever. But when I go into something, I go all in, you know. And I think a lot of business owners are like that as well. It's what keeps us going and what keeps us able to sustain the energy that is required to build a business. But if I'm on something, I'm all in, and I tend not to, just go with fads or trends. Yeah. It's like if I'm doing something, I'm doing it with my whole heart, and that's, as soon as I started, I was like, we're going for this, and like I say, very quickly, it just felt weird not to do it, and I just felt so much benefit from it, because not only was I being able to tick off my training, I'm done by 7:00 and I'm in the office, and I've got that moment of peace, having had all those high energy morning endorphins to then feel much better about starting my day. But I felt good about that headspace that I had. It's an hour or two of no phone, no one contacting me. I'm not on a train scrolling through Instagram feeling shit about myself. I'm out there actively doing something, even if it's hard. And And I found that it was having this massive knock-on effect to my mindset, my well-being, the way that I was approaching challenges, and just even like a sense of pride throughout the day. Like if you're having a bad day, but you've already done something really difficult at the beginning of the day, sometimes I would allow myself just to have the little fleeting thought, like, you've done a really big run this morning.
Yeah.
And I'd just be like, oh, God, I feel really good. I feel good about myself. I'd allow myself to feel good about having done that hard thing.
Like that's really interesting because you mentioned there about scrolling through Instagram making you feel shit, and that's when you're doing nothing, and then when you do something it has the opposite effect. How quickly into that sort of running to work every day did you start to notice those positive changes?
Within weeks. Yeah, within weeks it was just part of my routine. I think people think that it can take 6 weeks to build a habit, or it takes 6 months to build a habit. But I think if the habit is something that you do in a really intentional way, and you really think about what you're getting out of it, it very, very quickly just becomes this thing that doesn't require a lot of thought. And that's the secret, not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So I just did not think about it. It was a non-negotiable, and it still is. I don't go to bed every night and think, how am I going to get to work tomorrow? What time's the job?
Yeah,
it's just part. In fact, the decision is made on a Sunday when I pack my clothes for the week so that I can take them in on a Monday. The decision is made. Like my card is marked. That's what I'm doing. The only questions might be around: do I want to run a certain distance? Do I want to? I've got another run club on a Thursday night, so I need to be ready and get changed for that. And it's all, I call it my logistics. I've just got to work my logistics out, but the decision is made. And I think taking that decision-making process out of it allows you to have this kind of freedom to just take everything you can out of the experience, rather than battling with yourself about whether you're going to do it or not. Yeah,
like giving yourself a choice at all is not an option. And how during that time is that kind of thought process or mindset gone into work? Because I feel like it has.
Yeah, I mean, at 100%. I can't. I almost can't articulate the value that I have taken from not just the run commute, but running and learning everything that I have about endurance sports and running long distances and ultra marathons. The value that I have taken from it as a person, the perspective that it gives me on life, the lessons that I learned that I applied to my business, the type of person that I have become through doing it, the things that I can share with people in my team, the way that I approach hard things, the way that, building the person that I want to be, and the way that I look at, my reason why. It's so strange to talk about it in such a huge, expansive way, and all this has just come from running. But that's honestly the value that I take from it. It's life-changing.
And how is that? Like, you obviously lead a business and you've got people in your team who maybe younger or maybe not on that journey yet.
They're all younger than me.
Yeah.
A lot younger.
Yeah. So how do you see it as is it a responsibility thing? Are you trying to teach them? Do they want to learn? What are some of them challenges that, because you are this person now, and you might have people who are new to the business who are not that people, not that everyone has to be, but there's like a dynamic there, isn't there? Between like, once you are that person, you want others to be, or... Yeah,
do you know what, Phil? I one of the best things about it all is that, and I'm sure some of my team will listen to this podcast, but I have a sense that they're proud of me, and that means so much to me.
Yeah.
Particularly for the women in my team. I have a sense that they think I'm a bit of a badass.
Yeah.
Because I do this thing. And because I do this thing without fanfare and glory. Okay, here I am talking about it on a podcast again, like going on about it, but I don't do it and share it every single day. And I don't do it they know I don't do it for self-gratification or for like the world to say, oh, wow, what a great runner you are.
Yeah.
They know why I do it. They know that I do it because it intrinsically makes me a better person. And I don't think that they all need to run every day. And I don't think they need to be runners at all. But I do think that by quietly leading by example and showing up for myself, doing something that scares me, doing it consistently, play the long game, there's so many lessons that I can almost, without preaching to my team, they can see happening in front of their eyes, and they can see me doing it. And that's the best. It's a big example, right? That's what I want to be, an example, and I want them to be proud of me, and I think that they are proud of me, and that makes for a really constructive relationship between me and my team, and back again.
Something that I find, it's curious but like really interesting. You spoke about it then, like, why is it important as a woman to do that?
It's a really good question. I feel a sense of responsibility to show up in this way as a female business owner, because I still think that there is an uncertainty for women about how they need to represent themselves in the workplace. How do they show up? Do they show up as being seen as too bossy or too domineering or too loud or too extra or too emotional or too this or too that or too everything else? And I think that many women of all generations within the workplace struggle with that sense of how to, there's so many businesses that just go, bring your whole self to work. I would say that there are women, that 90% of women across every single generation look at that with a side eye and go, really? You want me to bring my whole self to work? Like the menopause, you want me to bring that to work? You want me to bring period pain to work? You want me to bring fears about infertility to work? You want me to bring, caring responsibility? All of those things. Really? You want me to bring all of that to work? The emotional weight and baggage that women carry, which we know is intrinsically more than men.
Yeah.
You want me to bring all that to work? Really? Bit of side eye. Now, I have a responsibility not to solve all of those problems, but to demonstrate what it feels like to be a woman with a voice and influence within the business world and within my agency, to show these women that are younger than me and to give them someone to look up to, how to bring your whole self to work, not for the sake of anybody else, not for the sake of any audience, but for yourself. And then to show them the impact that has on their lives. So yes, it's a responsibility that I take on very, what's the word? I feel honoured.
Yeah.
To take on that responsibility.
Yeah, and I think you're an amazing example of all of those things. And I'm proud of knowing you and everything you stand, and that you are probably one of the best leaders I know as a business. And I something I always ask myself, why would I have been able to do what I've done if in my business, if I was a woman in an engineering world? I definitely wouldn't have done. Yeah. And that plays on my mind. I think how hard it must be for women business owners because of all those things bring your whole self to work, but don't do that, and don't get emotional, and you can't say this, and
don't lead
she's a
in
bitch,
that way.
Like all the things that men do day in day out, that if that was a woman, it would be frowned upon or worse, and when have you always had that sense of responsibility, or is that something that's grown as you've owned the business?
It's really interesting because my parents are visiting this weekend. They came up to stay, and I've got two sisters. I've got an older sister and a twin sister. Both my older sister and my twin sister are highly successful in their own very different fields, and very different to me as well. They're all very, very distinctive. And my mum, in particular, was and still is, really a powerhouse. And she was the head teacher for one of the largest primary schools in the UK, in a pretty rough area of London, with a huge amount of challenge that needed to be dealt with. And I saw that from a young age, and I saw this resilient powerhouse of a woman who would often be looked at differently because she would be the only woman in the room as a head teacher within this field, who was very easily seen by others as being, sometimes she's too strong, sometimes she's too strict, sometimes she's too
anything.
got to or something,
Yeah.
And always just taking that on the chin and rising above, and that was her way of dealing with it and rising above. And again, I think it's similar to the way that I think about my responsibility with my agency. My mum didn't come and sit me down and go, "This is what's happening. This is why I'm behaving in this way. This is my solution for it." She was just pushing through and doing the best she could and being an example.
Yeah,
and that's how I was brought up. It's what I saw, and then to have my two sisters as well, and of course my dad, who's equally inspiring. But having two really strong sisters who were kind of moving their way through their own field, and all of us creating this almost like powerhouse whirlwind of female strength and energy. That's like, it's
a tough Sunday dinner.
It's a tough Sunday dinner. Yeah. Got to feel sorry for all the...
I feel for Dan.
Pray for Dan.
So let's go back a bit, because your background started is pretty interesting in where you came from. So if you talk to us a little bit about that, but also how that creative side and what it means to be a creative, and how that's sort of changed from where you started in your career to where you are now.
So my career, if you'd have told me in 2004 that in 2025 this is where I was going to be, it wouldn't have made any sense. But looking back, joining the dots, it does make sense to me. So I started straight out of uni. With a couple of friends, we travelled over to Brazil in South America because we'd been inspired through our university course, which was drama, learning about a theatre practitioner and a political leader, political activist called Augusto Boal. And across Brazil, he had created this form of political activism through theatre called Forum Theatre, with his theatre company, which was I'm not going to do the Portuguese, but it was the Theatre of the Oppressed. That's what it's called. And he had these techniques that was all about going into, whether it's deprived areas, prisons, working with what they were calling the maids, or working with people on the street, to help them use theatre to almost practice out acts of rebellion, standing up for their rights. And he ended up getting exiled because of this form of political activism, not without changing laws in Brazil. Before he was exiled, he was eventually allowed back, and it was then that we travelled over to Brazil and went to go and work with him and his theatre company. Interestingly, they said, "No, you can't come in," and we were like, "Well, we're here now, and we're here for like 6 months, so you got to let us in." And we did that for about 2 weeks, and they finally said, "You can follow us around, but it's your risk." So we worked in the prisons and favelas around Brazil, following his theatre company and learning these techniques. And then we came back to the UK, obviously significantly changed as people, but also really fired up about what the power of theatre and creativity and creating spaces for people to communicate and to share and to change perception on their lives. What the power of that had. Naively, very naively, because this is what was like 23 or something. We decided that we were going to create an arts company that did this thing in the UK. Long story short, that organisation is now a charity. It's called Odd Arts. My friend who I founded that organisation with got an MBE last year, Rebecca Goodrich. She has maintained the leadership of that organisation for 21 years now. Absolutely incredible. And the impact of it is, it makes me so proud that just to have been there at the beginning of that. But I was working in prisons for about 8 years, going into places like Strangeways, or Manchester Prison, Forest Bank, and Style Women's Prison, and drugs rehab centres, and refugee centres, and in probation and young offenders institutions, and using drama as a way to facilitate these workshops that would enable people to have conversations about things that would otherwise be too difficult to talk about, probably, at least in a group setting. So we talked about drugs and anger management issues and how to have conversations with your family while you're inside, and how to deal with conflict and all of those things. And I look back now and I'm like, what were we doing? That was so insane. We would get up at like 4 a.m. to drive across the country to go and run these workshops in these prisons, and then always thinking, how can we enhance our creative approach and make it more relevant? How can we learn from what happened within that workshop and to apply this to any other given scenario we're going to walk into? Because nothing's ever the same.
Yeah.
Like nothing is ever, the unexpected can happen at any point. It was exhausting. But that was where I started. And then I spent some time working still within community arts over in Toxteth in Liverpool. And eventually I was always being asked on the side to do writing for friends. Like, they had a business and they needed a website writing, or they needed like menus writing for restaurants or whatever. And eventually I started to build out copywriting, my copy. Yeah, thinking, hold on a second, you lot need to start paying for this. Actually, I realised that copywriting was a job, not just a favour. Oh, hold on a second, this is a job. So then I started doing that, and eventually kind of moved my way through into working at an agency. And it was at the agency that I worked at previously where I learned about, right, this is how words and creativity connects people through advertising or marketing or creating communities. And it was right at the start of social media and right at the start of even the idea of content marketing. And so it really was about, getting raw in with communities and, understanding how the platforms worked. And eventually, that's the kind of rest is history. In 2019, Dom and I, my business partner, co-founded Serotonin, which is, our agency now. So 6 years on, here we are. So it started in prison and it ended in a marketing agency. Like I say, drawing the dots, that makes sense because everything I was doing then was about understanding people and finding ways to create connections with people, to enhance communication, to understand how to get people to do things. Because if you imagine this, walking into a prison, you've got 10 men in a room, and we sit them down and we're like, right, we've got 3 hours, we're going to do some drama. They don't want to do it. I mean, they don't want to go back into their pad and sit on their own, but they also don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And they're going to be looking for any possible way not to do that thing or to play up or to disrupt. And it was our job to overcome the reasons why they didn't want to do it, often insecurity, fear of looking silly, and to create a place where they would feel comfortable enough to engage and get involved and make sure they got something out of it. Those skills are intrinsically linked to everything I do and know about brand and creativity. And that's how I make that journey make sense.
No, I think it makes perfect sense, and something that just a separate kind of segue off from that something that you said there about the fear of looking silly, like that holds so many people back. And if you found a way to unlock that, like with the prisoners, I feel like that's the best thing a leader can do.
Yeah.
And why do people stop at that? Why do people stop at the fear of feeling daft or the mates?
I think if you go like all the way back, it's almost like survival instinct, isn't it? Like we are, humans are built upon the approval of the community around them. Like we survive by fitting in. Yeah. We don't want to stand out. We want to fit in with the group. And so there is, it's in us. Like it's not something you can, some people have it to a greater or lesser extent, but we all have this need to fill in. And if you think about a prison, that is, everything's under a microscope in a prison. Every single emotion and experience, every single part of who you are. So, you look at someone wrong and someone could get killed. Like that's how extreme things are. Yeah. So if you think about heightening all of that, putting everything under a microscope, it is just our need to not stand out and to fit in. And it takes a really strong character to step outside and to quiet the voices and to see the value of standing out.
And then, do you think that's what business leaders have? Like, that to me, the first thing I was thinking of was that that's the difference between owning your own business. It's stepping out of that and not having the fear having the fear and doing it anyway.
Having the fear and doing it anyway, I think for sure. Like, not every business owner or leader needs to have a personal brand or speak on a podcast or put themselves out there. Many can be anonymous and do a fantastic job. That's and have done for years and years. But regardless of your visibility, just to have stepped into a role where the buck stops with you, that is a really unique trait, I think. Being prepared to be the final line of defence. You've got to have the ability to feel a lot of trust in yourself. You've got to be able to roll with the punches. You've got to be in it for the long game. You've got to be prepared to put the work in. Ideally, you've got to not have an ego. I mean, I know there's lots of business leaders do have ego.
I think a lot do. And you need to be aware that there is an ego there and shut it off sometimes. Because it's easy to get in, wrapped up in it, I guess, as well.
Yeah.
Everyone's saying you're fantastic and you've won awards and
creating a culture where people become yes men around you,
or women.
Yes, well done, Phil. Becoming yes men or women around you, and I think it's very easy. It certainly is to fall into that trap, and I think that's what creates toxic cultures where it's led by ego. There is cultures of fear or miscommunication or people doing things, not because it's the right thing to do, but because culturally we do the things that get us in favour with senior leadership.
Yeah.
And whether those things are right or wrong or good for the business or not, it doesn't matter because we're just trying to do what's going to gain us the most favour. And that to me is a toxic work culture.
And what's your opinion on this sort of the social media kind of trend at the minute, or probably over the last year or so? Everyone needs to own their own business, 3-stage framework to being a better life and smashing goals and work for yourself, don't work for anyone. What that's not right, is it, in my opinion? And because I don't think I'd be a great employee, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I'm a good business leader.
I think the main problem that I have with it is that it's not true. Like the dream isn't true and the myth isn't true. Like, people are being sold the wrong end result, which is the end result is a lie, and the path to getting there is a lie. And that's the problem, because you and I know we've both been running businesses, you for over 9-10 years for Hybrid. We're at 6. Both of us know that the end game is it's a long way away, and it takes a really, really long way and a huge amount of work to get to that end game. And the entrepreneurship in itself isn't the end. Entrepreneurship is an ongoing slog of a journey. And it's not like, once I sign my business up to Companies House and I send out my first invoice, that's me, business owner, bish, bash, bosh. So the end game isn't true, but the process to getting there isn't true either. And I think that's because it's all made to look so easy. Follow this 3-step framework, post this on LinkedIn, and you'll end up at £10,000 a month.
Yeah.
Most of the time when people are saying these things, it's just so easy to see through it anyway, because that's nonsense. What are you even talking about? £10,000 a month? What do you mean? What are your costs? What's your business model?
Yeah.
How does your business operate? Why do you never talk about that?
Yeah.
Because chances are none of that is profit, and you're not making out anything at all. And what's the goal anyway? And I just think that there's so much naivety that's being played into by our need to want to find the easy way and the silver bullet. But I don't know, it doesn't exist, and it's problematic when people try and sell that to other people.
Yeah, and I think that some people not that they shouldn't own their own business. The opportunity should be there for everyone, but some people are really good employees and need to be really good employees. Like, not as an opportunity stopper, but that's what they're really good at. Like,
it's like that Simon Squibb, he does it all the time, doesn't he? Where he basically has this whole philosophy around, like, everybody should quit their jobs, everybody should be an entrepreneur, and business owners. You know, the way he paints his picture of business owners of being this, like, evil,
evil
fat
corporate
cats,
giant,
evil corporate giants,
stopping you from getting your goals.
Simon, let's play this thing out, right? So we play this thing out. Everyone becomes a business owner, an entrepreneur. Nobody is working for anybody.
Yeah,
we're all just a load of fat cats, then, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because we're all business owners. We're all fat cats. We're all just entrepreneurs. You know, we haven't followed that schematic through to the end, where actually what we need is people just to be able to frame and shape the jobs that work for them in terms of what they want to get out of their working life, in terms of the balance that they want to have with their family, in terms of the amount of money they need to be able to be happy. You know, that's what we should be striving for, creating these frameworks and working environments that work for people, rather than saying there is one solution to everybody and we're all going to end up as independent business owners, and anyone that works for anyone else is either picking the easy way out or working for a fat cat.
Yeah, I think it's like, although it's framed as everyone's got this opportunity, but it's actually mega disrespectful to people who don't want to own their own business, which there's probably loads of people who don't because it's dead hard.
Yeah.
Like, it's dead hard.
Yeah.
And there's loads of stress, and it's a challenge every day, and every day's a fight pretty much. And I'm sure over time it gets easier. But for me, it's that we're selling the wrong thing. And I actually think that the reason people like Simon Squibb are probably trying to sell that is they're probably trying to sell something that is actually easier to sell the course than it is to be the owner. I see it loads in marketing, like marketing people who advertise for a course for marketing agencies to say, I know what, I've got the secret formula here, like this is what you need to do to get all your creative agencies paying you $1,000 a month or whatever. Like, why do people do that, do you think?
I don't know, Phil. I think we're in a point of pyramid selling in some respect, that you've got coaches training coaches to be coaches to then be coaches to then
do something. Like, don't coach it, just do it. I always think, like, I went on a course a couple of months ago. It was like a mergers and acquisition course, and the whole thing was just, you pay us and then you can get people to pay. I was like, this is a fucking pyramid scheme. Like, what you said, this isn't education. Like, this is, anyway, it's crazy. Something else that I've heard you talk about in the past, and you gave a speech at our staff away day, which was kind of resonated with everyone in the business, is this thing of stacking bricks. Talk to us about that concept and where it came from and what it actually means.
I think this analogy of, like, stacking bricks is it's like a powerful way of seeing the value of doing small things, because people see kind of, and again, it's similar to selling the end result, and the end result being a lie. People see these big transformations. I went from this to this, whether that's physically or in working life or in any kind of respect, and there is little value placed on the process of getting there. Now, I'm a big advocate of talking about the process that gets people there, and from that, I see that as every single thing that I do, every decision that I make that works me towards this end goal is a brick that I stacked. So the run I did this morning, was it the best run of my life? No. Was it the fastest? No. Was it the most interesting? No. It was down the A6. Was it boring? It was a bit. But it was a brick, and I stacked it. And therefore does it count? Yeah. So can I feel good about it? And I think it's about seeing that little that's why, I can have that thought halfway through the day. Oh, I did a run earlier.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about the time. I don't need to worry about the pace or what anyone else thinks about it. I did it because I stacked a brick. And when I look back over 2.5 years of doing that, I can have built something that's, if I hadn't have started on that day stacking that first brick, it wouldn't exist. So I can always look back at myself and say, you stacked a brick. And then I can go all the way back to Claire, who really started working, and focusing on, endurance, let's say 3-4 years ago. And I can say thank you to myself that I started stacking bricks at that moment. So I think what it does is really show the value of doing the small things. And that's why it's really important. It also, I think, gives you something to look back on in moments of hardship, to almost like open the box and see all the bricks that you stacked. I really love the brick analogy.
Yeah, we're really good.
But you could see the bricks that you stacked along the way, and it helps you in times of challenge to go, well, if I can do all of those things, I can do this. And that's something that I use quite often.
Yeah.
Because I always have this saying around it's undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Now, I want to say that I am a resilient, determined person who shows up for myself and others, regardless of the situation, regardless of the toughness, regardless of the challenge, and I take it on. That's what I want to say about myself. Can I say about myself? Can I say it about myself? Well, let me just go and look in this box. Yes, I can, because there's the brick from the 21st of November when it was snowing. There's the brick from that hard thing that I did when the first time I went on a podcast and I was nervous and I did it anyway. There's the brick from that really difficult conversation that I had with my team when they weren't performing and I just had to go and really shake things up. There's the brick, there's the brick, there's the brick. I can't look at that stack without saying to myself, I'm a resilient, determined person who shows up for myself and others, because the evidence is there. And if you have this stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are pretty much unstoppable, because the bricks become meaningful. They become the shape of who you are and of your potential, when really it's just a brick.
Just one thing you've done.
Just
that
one
day.
little thing that I did.
And what would your advice to be people starting that? I always think that listening to someone like you, you've got this 2.5 years of proof, and someone listening to that, they can't fathom how they can get to 2.5 years. So what's the advice to stack the first brick?
Stack the first brick. Don't think about 2.5 years from now. Okay, so this is another thing I was talking about, and it's a lesson that I learned from ultra running. How far into this podcast are we? Because I'm about to mention that I've run 100 miles. So that would be a record for me.
36 minutes.
36 minutes in. That's a record that I've waited this long. But
well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Another brick.
Yeah. I mean, that was a big brick.
Yeah.
I might put a couple of bricks away for that one. But that for me was a real pinnacle of this whole ultra running experience and journey that I've been on. And I didn't, even in that race, I mean, to me, 100 miles is just as overwhelming as it is to you. I don't look at that distance and think that feels like a walk in the park. I look at that distance and it scares me, it terrifies me, as much as if someone said to you, you've got to go and run that tomorrow. It's really scary. So I don't think about 100 miles. I think about the first section, the first aid station. The first section is about 18 kilometres in. That's all I've got to think about.
She runs to work every day.
I can run 18 kilometres. There's a brick there, and there's hundreds of bricks there that say I can run 18 kilometres. So I can run 18 kilometres, and that's all I've got to do. And when I get to that next aid station, we reset. At that aid station, we reset the counter. What's the next section? 19 kilometres. Well, I can run 19 kilometres between here and the next aid station because I've just done 18. It's just what I've done just now, plus a little bit. And when I get to that one, I will change my socks. I'll do something that marks the occasion. And then I'll keep going and I keep breaking it down. Now, this isn't a new or original philosophy, but I think by imagining this aid station approach, it gives you the ability to remove the fear of getting to the end.
Yeah.
So don't think about what am I going to be like in 2.5 years' time. Just think about what's the next aid station. The next aid station is I'm going to walk home from I'm going to get off the bus early and walk home every single day for the next week. I guarantee you'll feel different.
Yeah.
I guarantee if you do that every day for a week, you will feel different. So do that. And then the weekend is the aid station. So then you can sit there and reflect. How did that go? Right. Okay. So what am I going to do next week? What am I going to add in? And the smaller and more incremental these changes are that you can adopt, the more easy they are to embed within your life. So my advice for someone starting would be to think, what bricks can I stack? Just one. Put it in place and almost like visually see it, just see it stacking. If you do it for a week, you've got 7 bricks in a line. That's a lot, You're starting to build something now. There's something physical being created in your mind that you're like, well, I can't stop now. I'm not going to kick it over. Let's keep going.
You've started it.
You've started, yeah. And I know that starting is the hardest part, but that's why starting has to be a small, adjustable thing that is you can deal with in your mind. Don't think about 100 miles. Think about what you can. Think about the next aid station.
I think, as well, something like so easy when I started trying to look after my health a little bit at the start of the year, and rather than first thing I did was 5k and I nearly died, and then thought, do you know what, I'm just going to walk 3k, and then did that a couple of times and then build it up, and it just easy is better to get you started. It's so much easier.
Yeah.
Talk to us. Now we've got 39 minutes in. Let's talk about the 100 miles.
It's a really long way, Phil. It's a really bloody long way.
Before you started, what were you feeling?
Actually, I was really calm. It was strange. You go and register the night before, camping. So we're on this kind of camp. I was in the camp van or whatever, and then you go and register, and I was just super calm and super like, let's go. Let's go. And I think that's because I'd done so much mental training and mindset training for this challenge that I was feeling like ready to, let's bring it on. Let's embrace this test. I don't know what the outcome is going to be. I don't know if physically I can do it. I do know that I'm prepared to give it my best shot. Has the training been absolutely perfect? No, not by a long stretch. And could I have given more? Yeah, 100%. I could have done more. Did I do the best I could with what I had? Yeah. So therefore, let's go.
Yeah.
And I felt really calm. Having said that, I always get emotional at start lines and finish lines. It's like my most emotional place. Like in Love Actually, when everyone cries at airports.
Yeah.
I cry at start lines and finish lines. So I'm surrounded by all these everyone at a start line of an ultra thinks that everybody else looks like more of a runner than them.
Yeah.
They always I just know everyone's thinking, oh, they're runners and I'm not. That's obviously what I was thinking as well. So I was
feeling you to be a bit of a runner if you're running.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think
this would be a base level.
Yeah, you'd hope so. But I was thinking I was surrounded by all these runners, and what everyone seemed to be taking it in their stride. And then the guy starts talking about, just look out for each other out there, and just go and give it everything. So I'm crying, at the start line. I'm like, this is not bode well.
But you knew that was going to happen.
I knew it was going to happen because I always get emotional. But it was, so yeah, there is that sense of something big is about to happen. And the emotion of crying is more of just a release of everything is so built up. You're so focused. You're so ready. You really want to go out there and do yourself proud. I always have a kind of emotional moment. But as soon as the start gun goes off, it's a real sense of relief because you're in it.
Yeah.
Once you're in it, it's brilliant. You're just every step, I'm getting closer and closer.
And is that how you think about it? When you run it, you think, right, I'm at the first aid. I'm just going to get to the next one.
Just got to get to the next one. It's got to break it down. I do remember I was running with this guy almost the whole way, and I do remember saying to him at one point, okay, so this is really good. We've just got to do 16 kilometres now, then 12, and then another 12. So then we're basically done. And then now I'm looking back, I'm like, that's ridiculous. But at the time, I was like, it's just 16 and then 12 and then 12. And he was like, I don't know if that sounds like about or not.
Was it easier, harder than you thought? Was it? Were the emotions?
Do you know what?
you
Again,
thought they would be?
I think physically, I experienced pain that I've not experienced before in any kind of run. So my legs and my feet were just in agonising pain. But I think that, and I lost all personality. I think that's after about 80 miles. I was running with this guy that I'd met, but also my pacer, and I could tell that my pacer was trying to like ask me questions and get me, distracted perhaps from the pain, and he would keep asking me things, and I literally could only just go, yeah. Whatever he said, I was just, yeah, and then I was like, I've got no chat. Like,
we're 80 miles in. Stop.
Yeah. I've got nothing. Like, you could keep talking by all means, but like, do not expect me to reply. But even at the end, it was great. That last section was just great fun. Like, when we knew we were going to make it, and it was just brilliant to know that this real mountain, this like momentous distance, and a momentous challenge. And I was going to get to the end. I was going to get to the end in a good time. I was getting to the end with no injury. I was getting to the end feeling strong. I crossed the line, happy, strong, smiling, confident, like feeling really good. And I couldn't really ask for more than that. If someone said, like, what do you want to get out of this? I would have said, I want to finish feeling strong. That's the dream. So to have got to that point makes it a really so I've signed up for one next year.
Right. Yeah. Done another one.
Yeah, I'm doing another one. I did finish, and I was like, never. I said two things. I said, never again. And that is a ridiculous distance.
Yeah. And then you signed up for it.
And then, this weekend I was like, oh, yeah.
And what did it teach you anything that you didn't think it would, if that makes sense?
It taught me about myself, I think.
What did it teach you?
I think another friend of mine who was an ultra runner, and I told him I was doing it, and he literally said, oh, you're going to meet yourself. Yeah. And I was joking about it beforehand. I was like, I don't want to meet myself. Yeah. I really don't want to meet myself. That's the one thing I don't want to. I'll meet anyone. Yeah. I do not want to meet me. But I know what it means. Like, I did meet myself, and I really, I think I kind of summarized it afterwards in an Instagram post. I learned that I am so determined. Nothing will stop me. Going back to my mum, I think I got this from my mum, but I really saw that, and it was amazing to feel that, and to have experienced pushing myself to that limit, to keep going strong. And, there was aid stations where you'd get in, it was just like a big barn, and it looked like, people were just like collapsed on the floor, like wrapped in coats. Like, I was thinking that these people are not going to move. Yeah. Like they're done. Yeah. They're done. And that wasn't me. I was like, there was never any question. I was always going to get it done.
Through the whole race,
there was never any question. No, there was no question. Amazing. I was always going to get it done. And talk about stacking bricks. This is why I love ultra running. This is why it's so powerful and so good for teaching you lessons as a business owner, because in that controlled environment where there are aid stations and there are medics and the course is marked out, and for all intents and purposes, it's a dangerous thing to do in a very safe way. I was able to practice overcoming, pushing myself to the limit. I was given the opportunity to learn where the limit of my potential was within that environment. And having experienced that, I can then take that back and use that anywhere. So I definitely came out of that a better person. And I think that's why I like to do hard things, and I see the value in doing hard things, because I truly believe that to live a life, for me, that is fulfilled and enables me to go beyond the limit of any potential that I have, which to me is a fulfilling life, I have to push myself in this way and do these challenges. So, yeah, that's why, you know, going back to the very beginning of this conversation where running and ultra running is almost impossible for me to say the value that it's had within my life and the person that I am. That's why, because it gives me that opportunity to meet myself, you know, at the real limit of potential. And all I've done now is realise, oh, that wasn't the limit.
So yeah, cause that
There's
is the more, and you want to you want to push yourself.
Yeah, and it might not be. It's not like it's not necessarily about, oh, now I want to run 200 miles. Now I run 300. Like, what's my physical limit as a runner? Because I'm not a professional runner. I'm not a professional athlete. I don't need to prove to the world that I can run 500 miles. That's not what it's about. But it is about going, I can put myself in scenarios where I don't know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to be challenged. I know I'm going to have to overcome problems and problem solve. I know I'm going to have to dig deep. Regardless of what that is, that might be in a 10K. It's not about the distance. Yeah. It's about the attitudes that you go into the challenge with, and that's what I get out of it. So yes, I've signed up for another 100 miler. That's just because I'm an idiot. Mm-hmm. But it's that, I think it's that sense of excitement about what could I learn next time, and I might not even finish it next time, but that doesn't matter. Because it's like, what will I get out of it? Like, who will I become? Yeah. In the trying, like in the process of trying, who will I become? That's what keeps me pushing for more.
I think that's such a quality to have and mega inspirational. I think that determination and discipline is why you've been so successful and why you can complete 100 miles. It's I wish I was as determined in fitness, but I've just not got there yet. Just want to land on one last question for people to kind of take something about what you've talked about through the podcast, and that's what you spoke about, what people can do to start, but what can people do to raise their floor and sort of introduce that consistency to their lives, as opposed to like lowering the bar. How do people raise the floor?
I think it's about like having real self-awareness and managing your own expectations of yourself, but also having curiosity about what your potential is. I think those things, those qualities, or that self-reflection and that self-awareness helps people to just level up what they believe their baseline is. It's raising the floor, isn't it? It's about understanding of your baseline. And for example, your 5K, you first of all, you're like, oh God, I've got to run a 5K. Oh, what nightmare. That feels like a really, really long way. And then you start to push it to 6K, 7K, 8K. You did a half marathon. We're always using the running analogy, but the running analogy is always a really useful one. Yeah. I think it's about, you needed to have that self-awareness of where that baseline was for you and what kind of scared you, but also to then think about and consider what your potential would be if you were to push that. And suddenly a 5K doesn't feel like such a slog anymore, because you've run a half marathon now. So you've lifted up and leveled up that baseline. And before you know it, a half marathon might not feel that far to you, because again, you keep raising the baseline and raising the floor. So, now I'm signed to 110 kilometers in September, because that doesn't scare me anymore, because now I've moved my potential higher. I'm questioning. I've got curiosity around what my potential is. But that doesn't mean I have to go and do something exceptional every single day. I don't have to be exceptional, run 100 miles every day. I don't have to be the best every single day. I just have to get really, really good at being my baseline level of good consistently. And I think the more that you try and stack bricks, be consistently good, be curious about your potential, you'll find that just over life, you'll be raising the floor. And that's probably a better way to approach self-improvement than to, try and be the best at everything all the time.
Amazing. Thanks very much, Claire, for a really good podcast.
Thanks for having me, Phil.
Thank you.